Imagine if you could predict, with almost scary accuracy, how a country was going to fall apart, piece by piece, years before it even happened. Sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, right? Well, it's not. Today, we're going to unpack the true story of how one of the greatest military minds in history, Sun Tzu, did exactly that. So let's get right into it. We're talking about Sun Tzu, the guy who wrote The Art of War. He made this jaw-dropping prediction about the state of Jin in ancient China. And I want to be super clear here. This was not some lucky guess. It wasn't a prophecy he read in the stars. Nope. It was the result of a cold, hard, analytical formula. So picture this. We're in ancient China, and the state of Jin is basically falling apart at the seams. The king? He's not really in charge anymore. Instead, you've got these 6 super powerful families or clans running the show. The best way to think about it is like 6 rival companies all fighting for total market domination. And believe me, things were about to get really messy. Now, when someone asked Sun Tzu, hey, who's going to win this free-for-all? He didn't give some vague, wishy-washy answer. Oh no, he laid out an exact timeline. He said, okay, first to go will be the Fan and Zongheng clans. After them, the Z clan will fall. And then he pointed to the ultimate winner, the Zhao clan. I mean, how incredibly specific and bold is that? You don't just guess something like that. So the big question is, how? How in the world could anyone possibly know that? Was it magic, some kind of supernatural vision? This is where things get really interesting. See, Sun Tzu wasn't a mystic. He was a super practical, down-to-earth strategist who believed that you could actually calculate the outcome of a conflict before it even starts. He had this kind of secret code, a 5-step formula for figuring out the real strength of any kingdom, any army, any organization. And right now, we're going to unlock it together. Okay, so the absolute core of Sun Tzu's thinking is this. Victory is not an accident. It's not about guesswork. It's the logical, predictable result of having a stronger material foundation. He wasn't just counting soldiers or rating generals. No, he was looking at something much, much deeper. And here it is. It's a 5-step chain reaction, and it's all about cause and effect. Step 1, you measure the land. Why? Because the amount of land you have determines how much stuff, like grain, you can grow. That's step 2. Then, how much grain you have determines how many soldiers you can actually feed and keep in the field. That's step 3. And once you know that, you can weigh your strength against your opponents. That's step 4. And finally, once you've done all that math, you can predict who's going to win. That's step 5, victory. You see the logic, right? The really crucial thing to get here is that Sun Tzu's formula connects a country's destiny directly to its most fundamental assets, its land and the people working that land. Real power, he's saying, doesn't just pop into existence. It literally grows right out of the ground. All right, so now we have the formula. Let's put it to the test. We're going back to those 6 warring clans in Jin and see exactly how Sun Tzu applied these 5 steps to make that mind-blowing prediction of his. So to make this work, he needed one key piece of data to plug into his calculation, something that would expose the real underlying strength of each clan. So what was it? The number of chariots they had, the fame of their generals. What was the one piece of information that would unlock the entire puzzle? Well, the answer was hiding in plain sight. It wasn't some deep military secret. It was their economic policy. Specifically, it was all about how they managed their farmland and, this is the most important part, how they taxed their own people. That was the raw data he needed for his formula. And this right here shows you everything. You had 5 of the 6 clans. What did they do? They gave their farmers tiny little plots of land and then squeezed them with a heavy 20% tax. So the people were suffering, but the lords were getting rich. But then you have the Zhao clan. They did the complete opposite. They gave their farmers huge plots of land and, get this, charged them 0 tax. None. And these 2 totally different policies set them on 2 totally different paths. On one side, the heavy taxes created this vicious downward spiral. The people got poorer and angrier, while the rulers got fat, corrupt, and started picking stupid fights. But the Zhao clan's no-tax policy? It created a virtuous cycle, an upward spiral. Their people got wealthy and happy, their government stayed lean and clean, and their state became a magnet, drawing in hardworking people from all over, which just made them stronger and stronger. And guess what? History unfolded almost exactly as Sun Tzu's calculations predicted. It was uncanny. Just like he said, the clans with the worst tax policies, the Fan and Zongheng, they were the first to get wiped out. Then, boom, the Z clan fell. And in the end, the Jia clan was one of the three major powers left standing to carve up what was left of Jin. The formula? It actually worked. Okay, so when you step back and look at this whole thing, this incredible piece of strategic thinking, what's the big takeaway? What's the timeless lesson we can learn from this ancient masterclass? What his formula really reveals is a deep, profound truth about where power actually comes from. He's showing us that true, long-lasting strength, it doesn't come from having the biggest army or the most gold in your treasury. It comes from the well-being and the support of your people. It's really that simple. When your people are thriving, your state thrives. You know, after Sun Tzu laid all this out for his boss, King Helu of Wu, the king's reaction was fascinating. He wasn't just impressed by the clever math. He got the deeper point. He said, the way of a true king is to love his people generously. That, right there, is the heart of the lesson. And that really brings us to a final question, one for you to think about in your own world. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a country, a company you work for, or even just a small team. Sun Tzu's timeless wisdom forces us to ask ourselves a pretty tough question. Are we building our strength by taking from our people or by investing in them? Where does our real strength truly come from?